You'd be shocked because that a lot of times, even organizations that are hiring for these roles, they don't even know their own roles like they think they do. What if now that person does the things that you desire them to do, but now they're looking for even more, or they begin to kind of do things their way too much, even though that person has great talent, doesn't mean that that talent would be a good fit for that system or team.
With me today is Christopher Salem. He is a communications expert guiding leaders to drive measurable growth in sales, retention, profit, and team success, powered by the EQ Advantage. And today we'll talk a lot about team success because I think a lot of people focus on profits and all those things, but all that is built based on how good your team is. So, Chris, how are you doing today?
Steve, go ahead. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Fantastic. Now, let's start with building these teams. Let's start with the first thing. How do you hire? What are the right things that you see the leaders that build the right teams do right from the get-go?
Number one, it's always going to start with communication. So you're going to have to communicate effectively from within. Everything that you do that is, if it's going to have sustainable success, when I mean sustainable, doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect from there on out. But if you're going to have more long-term success, that's got to start within and how you communicate to yourself and the rest of your team in terms of what are the missing pieces that are going to enhance or complete our team. Now, a lot of times, organizations, whether if they're a small business, a mid-sized company, a Fortune 500 company, does not matter. We've been, a lot of times they're conditioned to hire new talent based upon what they see on a resume, or it could be from what they heard from somebody that knows somebody, that type of thing. But a lot of times they're basing it on the experience, like where they went to school. And while all those things are good and great, doesn't mean that necessarily they're going to be the right candidate or the right fit for that position. So think about like sports. I'm a big football fan. You could have a number one talent at a certain position. With that being said, even though that person has great talent, doesn't mean that that talent would be a good fit for that system or team. Now, it may be for somebody else, but not for you. So if you're just hiring on the talent itself, that could be getting in your way. So a lot of times we have to be able to hire based upon skills, transferable skills, and are those skills adaptable or in alignment to the strengths that we require for that role and how they're going to complement and in synergistically align with the rest of the roles and duties with our team to generate the results that we seek. So oftentimes we got to really approach things based upon skills and how those skills are transferable, regardless of their experience, regardless of their educational background. Are they based upon their personality type, generational type, cultural and ethnic type? All of these are factors that would play a part if that person is going to be a great fit or that missing piece to the overall success of our team and organization.
Now, what do you say when someone says, you know what, I hear you, but I believe that with hard work, talent grows and becomes the next thing. And I'm not going to focus so much on the skills because I believe I can show them, teach them, and do all these things. I'm going to go for talent.
This is the thing that I oftentimes see as a mistake. This is where communication comes in. So for instance, if you are, you may want to hire a go-getter, okay? And somebody on the DISC profile that could be a D, someone that is fired up, just show me what I have to do and I'll make it happen. Now, with that being said, that would sound like, hey, I could spend the time showing them what they have to do, and I'm just going to let them take it from there and make it happen. Now, what if now that person does the things that you desire them to do, but now they're looking for even more, or they begin to kind of do things their way too much than they were supposed to in that role. Now it's causing a conflict. And if for any reason they're not fulfilled with what they're doing in that role, guess what? sayonara, they're off to the next opportunity. Now you're left with now that position open, saying to yourself, what happened? What do I have to do? So we gotta take into consideration, just because somebody could be a go-getter and results oriented or have demonstrated the results they can generate doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to be the right fit. It might be someone who may not be as qualified, maybe not as talented as that person, yet communication wise is a better alignment and more likely to adapt to what we're looking for moving forward, and overall is going to be a better producer and cohesive to other things that we're doing within the team. These are the things that a lot of times organizations fail to do. Nonetheless, like it happens in the sports arena with football, baseball, basketball, same thing, because we're just going after the talent itself. That is not enough. That's going to build a winning team and an environment for others to thrive.
It feels like the most important piece in when you approach this is someone that can have transferable skills and they can fit within the team. And it doesn't matter if it's the best talent, because they might veer off and do things the way that they know, but not the way that the whole organization needs them to do. And even if it's the best way, it's just a matter of time until it stops clicking together as a unit.
Exactly, because a lot of times what happens is the talent ends up doing what they think should be done. And there's nothing wrong with that because you want autonomy in that role in terms of how they make decisions, how they take calculated risk. But sometimes there has to be things that role has to follow with what the guidelines are with the rest of the team is doing. And when that's not happening and there's a conflict, that's going to cause a ripple in that water, so to speak, and that's going to now cloud other things that the rest of the team is doing. And there's going to be disagreements, conflict, breakdown in communication, and eventually someone's going to leave. So with that being said, these are all things that have to be factored in. And just because somebody looks good on paper, somebody, really, what shows up on their resume or they've demonstrated results doesn't necessarily mean that is going to align what they can do in this role. This is why we have to investigate other options in terms of making sure that are we optimizing just on the talent itself, or that there are certain skills that are going to be necessary and required that person, if they clearly demonstrate that, then that they are the right candidate. But just because they're the right talent or are the most talented doesn't mean they possess the necessary skills that would be best aligned to that role, say to someone else with less talent.
Interesting. Now, let's say someone takes your advice and says, okay, I'm going to identify from the get-go, we're going to go for skill-based. The next step is to create this post and write some interview questions. What are the typical things that are the right ones that you want to include in an interview, whether that be the post, the questions, so that you attract the right person because you want to do the right thing? I'm going to go down the path of skill-based hiring. What do I do next?
Well, a lot of times what you have to do is you got to get honest with that particular role. Is this a role that's going to require someone to take the lead? Is this a role that is going to complement what they're doing with other people? So oftentimes there might be different personalities that would be more conducive to that role than others. So it's not one size fits all. So you got to factor in personality types to that role, how that relates to you and the rest of the people on your team. It could be a generational thing. A lot of times it could be that maybe someone younger may not be the right fit, or someone older that might not be the right fit based upon what's most important in terms of what you're looking to get out of the role. There could be cultural and ethnic differences. Now, I'm not saying that you don't hire someone because they don't speak English or English is not their primary language. But nonetheless, these are factors that we got to consider in conjunction with other things that are going to play a big role. So one of the things that I always like to do is to really, align the interview based upon the skills that are going to be necessary. And through a short simulation, kind of like a mock situation where you can run them through a scenario, can they demonstrate on the spot how, what, why, who, depending upon their personality? Because Certain people identify with what questions, certain people identify with why and how questions, some people identify with who questions. We got to have an idea what their personality is, which you could assess any personality assessment, not solely to hire somebody, because that's like, you can't do that, but as a part of the hiring process, knowing how to position those questions. So if now I can ask certain questions that put them into like a real life scenario based upon how they would leverage those skills, can they demonstrate that they can absolutely align to what we're looking for to give us like at least a snapshot that they could likely be the right candidate. You'd be shocked that a lot of times you could have a talent that on a resume, all the more experience, and when you run them through one of those short simulation scenarios, you realize, oh my God, this person isn't a fit. Yet many don't do that, and they hire right off what they see on the resume and through some typical standard interview questions where anybody can say what you want to hear, and then yet really in reality are not going to be able to align what you're looking for. So these are where these things are very important in the hiring process, but that's got to really start from within, you understanding what has to be done, what has to be accomplished, understanding the rest of your team, how this person that you're looking to hire is going to align that. So you have to know right down to personality, generational, cultural, and ethic types, and right down to that skill level. I've seen people where they didn't have any experience in the role they were getting hired, yet they had the skill, the experience with the skills necessary, and they were transferable, and they ended up, based upon the metrics that were being tracked and recorded, ended up producing far better than someone previously they had hired just on the talent and experience alone.
I think it's very interesting, the mock scenario, because I didn't do that for a long time, and in 2025 I started doing it a lot because of AI. I was getting the same answers. I think people don't understand that aspect. I was getting 40-50 applications and it's the same answer. I know that you're
same answer.
It's
yep.
And I understand that you will use AI to help you with the research, who I am, what I do, what is needed in the role. But once I started to see the same answer, I was like, I'm not under. It's the same thing as if I took out the question completely, because I didn't get anything from you. What do you think? How you would approach it? And then I started introducing this mock situation, and that really clarified. Now, what do you do around AI being used so much in answering questions? Do you put some guardrails? Do you mention something like that in the interview to say, do use, do not use, or does it play at all a role?
Well, like I said, I mean, we all know AI has been out now for the last 3.5 years now, right? And pretty much mainstream to most people. People use it for research. People use it to, enhance their grammar and how they write emails and so on, and also how they would probably when they're interviewing, they're doing it. So they're doing it. So the question is, we don't want somebody just being a robot and reciting what AI said. We want to be able to use the AI and knowing how to strategically ask the questions that align with their projected personality, what you may already know about them. Maybe they took a personality assessment before that interview that you're having one-on-one. So this way we can put them where we cater it to their advantage and how they can process information. Now we're really hearing it genuinely from who they are, not that it sounds robotic. It's like a results-oriented person who's now, asking a how or a why question, which they are not programmed to do. They don't care about how or why questions. They care about, what do we have to do to make this better to get these results? That's all they care about. Now, if you're asking them a how or why question, they'll answer it if they're looking to get the job, but that's not how they process information. So again, this is where the strategy has got to start from within, and it can't be a cookie cutter process that most organizations, unfortunately, to this day still do, because that's all they know. And it's also, they're protected because, hey, the company supports it. If I now try to do something different and they're saying, hey, we've never done this before, is it going to work? And sometimes they're afraid to take that chance. But I can share with you from what we're talking about right now, these are things that, for the most part, you're never going to bat 1,000, but you will increase your batting average, or in terms of the metrics and how you are measuring, hiring the right people, the retention, the production, the performance. that, utilizing what we've talked about so far, and there's other things, will put you in a better position to find the person that best aligned for that role, and how they work with the rest of the team.
It's important to find that balance, I believe, because with time, I've seen exactly what you're saying, that it's not just about the skills, and also using that mock situation to avoid the AI, because you want to see who the person is, and this is not helping you at all. It's useful in the research part, but not like you're explaining. You're changing how you're answering as a person, and then when I hire you, it's not going to work because you're using different ways of answering questions that are not the way that you would personally answer them. Now, let's say you get to that interview, and now you are actually conducting an interview, and I have a couple of questions here, but I'll start with the first one, which I've been battling for a while and has been suggested to me several times. Group interviews. How do you feel about group interviews?
Group interviews can be effective, and as long as, again, you and the other person are in sync in terms of the strategy of what you're looking for from their perspective, your perspective, but not just being locked in on each other's perspective. You have to be able to see it for what it is. So we have to look at, like, what is going to be best for you and me and the rest of the team and the organization. I may not 100% agree, and you may not, but we're finding something in the middle. That first has to be established when we are talking. So this way, when we are asking certain questions, we know that, okay, that when the other person asks that question, it's going to be better aligned with that person, because that really plays into something that they can understand and relate, and vice versa for you. So you got to be in sync in how you communicate that, and making sure that your body language, your tone of voice, all of that is in alignment from each other. Because a lot of times, you'd be shocked, I've actually been on interviews in the past when I worked in the corporate world many years ago, because I started studying this many years ago. And I can remember being interviewed by two people, and I can remember somebody asking me a question. And as I'm looking and I look over at the other person, they kind of gave this facial expression, not even realizing what they were doing, because they didn't agree what their colleague asked me. And then I caught on to that, and I said, that's a red flag. And I ended up not taking that job, even though I was offered the job. I didn't take it because I got something was off.
Something was off in that situation. You're like, I'm not gonna. So if you're going down the path of group interviews, you got to be in sync. Otherwise, and it's something more advanced. In the beginning, probably don't do it. Do the one-on-ones. You'll be a lot safer and find the right person. Now, when you're doing the interviews, is there like, for example, the way that I do it is, sometimes I do put people on the offense. I would pressure on a specific thing because I just need a clear answer. And sometimes it is an open-ended question. If someone is an account manager, they deal with people, most of them open-ended questions. Specific job, I would put a little bit of a pressure, because I want to know if it's a yes or no, or do you know specifically about that skill? How do you feel about, kind of applying a little pressure in the interview itself with the candidates?
I think, again, yes, it's okay without putting them on the defense, right? So I would never open up with a question like, hey, share with me, or you. Anytime you open up with a you with anything in the conversation, you automatically put them on the defense. When they hear you, they go into defense mode. That fear-based mindset says, oh boy, here it comes. So the thing is, we always want to position any kind of question that might put them in the hot seat, so to speak, in a way that puts them on the offense. So in this case, I'd like to talk to you about something that's going to be important in this role. Help me to understand. Now, if I know they're results-oriented, task-oriented, and they're committed to results, less detail, help me to understand, what would you do in a situation like this if you were to have this role? If it was an engineer or a project manager, same thing. I like to talk to you something that's very important in this role. Help me understand why or how you would approach this. See, because now they're more analytical. They want to go into the weeds a little bit more. And I will now understand that if that is what I'm looking for in that kind of role, then I'm not going to be surprised if they start giving me more detail, because if they start going, oh my God, this guy's going off on a tangent, this guy's giving me more information than I want. Well, then maybe you don't know your role like you want, because that role is analytical, yet you don't want the details. See that right there, it goes both ways. So it's really, what I say is that you'd be shocked because that a lot of times, even organizations that are hiring for these roles, they don't even know their own roles like they think they do. And this way they're hiring the people with the wrong personalities for that role and how they go about doing things. It's like putting a square into a circle, like you're trying to fit something. Doesn't mean that they don't have the talent, doesn't mean they haven't demonstrated those results somewhere else. It's just not the right alignment to that role and the skills necessary with it. So these are the things that are very, very important. And again, it's got to start from the inside out before you even go out and start interviewing or even begin the process of interviewing for the right candidates.
And it's interesting because I feel like I definitely made that mistake in the beginnings a couple of years ago, where for one of the roles to do like the LinkedIn outreach, for example, I always felt someone needs to be like detail organized and very precise in data entry. And then I realized with time, it's actually like the office manager personality, where you do your part, but you can really well communicate and navigate situations with your team, because you might need a question from the client, then the team leader maybe needs to change something else. So it's not just about the data entry, it's actually someone that can have a good relationship with
that's a systematic type person. So systematic and analytical people are very similar. They're team people. They're not going to take the lead. They don't want to make the final decision. They don't want to take calculated risk, but they're great teams. So an engineer or project manager is going to want to get into the weeds of how and why we're going to make this better. You have to prove to them through a sequence of that. If you could prove to me, then I will believe as we go forward to what we're working for. A systematic person is very similar, except in this case, they're more driven by the why than the how. They don't need to go into all the details like someone who's analytical, yet they possess more people skills that they're able to communicate this directly and indirectly with other people involved, whether if it's on their team or with customers or alliance partners, whereas the analytical person is normally not a great communicator. They're very good at what they do in their siloed environment, but yet they're not going to always be the best communicator. So if we're putting an analytical person into a role where they have to communicate effectively, well, that's probably not the right fit. And I'm not saying that somebody who's analytical can't communicate effectively. It can be done, but nonetheless, overall, they're normally not great. Think about CPAs. CPAs will understand their craft. They provide great knowledge and information, yet they fail to communicate properly with their clients. So a lot of times their clients are going, I have no idea what he's talking about or what she's talking about. They just say, okay, I guess I'll just go with what you say. And they don't question it because they have no idea what they're talking about, because they don't know how to communicate it based upon their client's personality type. So this is where communication is critical. So if communication is going to be a big part of that role, someone who is analytical may not be the right person. It might be a part of it if they're going to be working with someone who's systematic. Then yes, then let the person who's systematic, handle the communication, as long as that they're working together. So these are the things to know. This is what builds a winning team. This is where, again, if I go back to sports, I'll go back to the New England Patriots back in their heyday when Tom Brady. Why did that team win 6 Super Bowls? Well, was it because they had the best talent? No. Tom Brady himself was a 6th-round draft pick in the 2000 draft. He was drafted in 199 pick. He didn't have the strongest arm. He wasn't the most physically gifted. But what Tom possessed was that he was very structured, very disciplined. He communicated to himself very well. He was well prepared. And the team environment had the same philosophy. They were able to get more out of less talented players that they didn't have to pay as much. They weren't 1st-round picks, and were able to win more games because, again, they understood their role and duties and knew how to bring in the right people into those positions, not just on talent alone, but other things, again, based on those skills. This is why some teams that just went after first round talent or proven experience elsewhere with their stats ended up not producing, or they overpaid the player and didn't produce the level of results they were looking for because they weren't put into the right position. They were forced to do something that didn't play to their skills. So it's no different in the workplace. I always equate that there's no difference.
Right.
It's just a different environment.
And if someone sees this from I'm hiring for entry level or management level or a C level, is there a difference when you're hiring for these? Let's say for someone needs a C level position, is there a difference in the person they're going after, the red flags they're going after, the mistakes they're making at this level when they're hiring?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, there's going to be various different types of a CEO's personality. They could be task-oriented, they could be people-centric, depending upon their background, depending upon what their area of specialty is, or there could be a combination where, that type of thing. So a lot of times you have to be able to, flush that out. And this is where assessments are very good in helping to do that. You can't just hire someone off the assessment. That is illegal. But nonetheless, you could use it as a tool, as part of the hiring process to make sure, because if you get a CEO that it aligns with everything you're looking for with results and has proven results, yet in your environment, they're not going to communicate well. They may not even be respected by the people that will be working for them, and that's not going to lead to anything good just because they have a proven track record. So these are the things that have to be taken into account, based upon who's on your team. And it is that person coming in, can they align to those personalities, those generational and cultural ethnic types, to be able to influence them to really step up in their role and duties to do more as a team. So a lot of times, and again, it's the same thing in sports. And when you bring in a head coach, the people that understand this are the ones that bring in the right coach. This is why, I know he just got fired recently, John Harbaugh from the Baltimore Ravens, but he had an 18-year track record with the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of coaches are lucky if they last 3 years with the team because these teams don't know how to hire based upon skill. The Ravens were very, very smart, not only intellectually intelligent, but emotionally intelligent in their front office and making sure they attracted the right coach for the right environment that they wanted to build a winning team environment, in which they did. And they've, for the most part, at 18 seasons, he had a winning record, except for this year, because things do run its course eventually, and it's time to leave. But nonetheless, 18 years is pretty solid.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about things running its course, is there a right way when, we've had a fantastic CFO and it's just not working out anymore? We've maybe the company's outgrown the position or the person, or there's a misalignment. They were used to old ways. Things have changed. There's maybe a new CEO. He wants things differently. What is the right way of parting ways with no hard feelings, with basically separating, having mutual respect, and starting the new hiring process for the next person?
Absolutely. I would say, again, you want to acknowledge that person for the success they have. You just don't say it. You really want to be able to demonstrate and outline some of the things they did successfully for your organization, just whatever time frame that was. And just being direct to say that, hey, the industry has changed, things have evolved, and it's calling out for a new level of skills that are necessary to lead our organization to this level. This is something now we have to now go to the outside now, and we want to thank you for everything that you've done, and if you're able to provide them resources, different things that will help them to, land on their feet somewhere else, that's helpful, no guarantees, but to help maybe to see based upon you valuing them, would they be open to, while you're bringing in that other person, would they be open to mentoring or, just providing information that's going to help their successor come in, and showing vested interest that you will be there as a resource to help them wherever they go, to be a good, to be a good resource for them to, share with their new company, all the great things that person did for you and so on. So it's all in the communication. It's all based on respect, and respect is not something that is just handed. It's something that is earned, and it's something that can be easily broken with one thing versus where it can take months or years to earn and seconds to break. So this is where, again, the consistency in your communication, in your verbal communication, your written communication, your body language, your tone of voice, so on, your sensory acuity, your emotional intelligence, all of these play an important role in helping to create those bonds. I've had in the past had to let go of people I valued. I thought that they were excellent. Just at the time that where the path that we were going was just not in alignment with where they are. And it was time for them to move on, even though they didn't see that. So now again, doesn't mean everyone's still going to be upset and mad when you ask them to leave. But nonetheless, you again, just doing your best to put them on the offense is always the best way. And saying, hey, your insights and your insights to us finding the right person will be helpful because we respect you as a leader and a mentor. And again, we're going to do whatever we can to help you as you land on your feet with your next opportunity.
It's interesting what you mentioned at the end, because I was in one company, this was a long time ago, where I feel like they did exactly what you said. The guy was fantastic. He was my manager. But once they let go, the morale of the team kind of took a hit, because we all were like, oh, we liked him. He was really nice. And then once we sat down with some of the leadership, they were like, you do know that for the past, let's say, 2 years, we just didn't hit the goals. And he was directly responsible for one of those KPIs. And it's simple as that. Like, we all respect him and like him, but 2 years in a row, we didn't hit it and we didn't want to continue again. How do you work with your clients so that that morale hit is not severe enough that everybody loses trust in the decision-making of the leadership?
Well, the thing is again, and this is where sometimes companies, they don't communicate because they're afraid that, they're going to let Tom go, or we love Tom. If he's going, I'm going to go with him. Or if he's going, I'm going to go find another job. It's how you approach it, to say that we value Tom, we respect Tom. There are certain things that in the last couple of years that were not met for whatever reason. And this is not personal. It's a business decision. It's hard that we got great years from Tom, but it's time that we have to move forward. We want to get your insights, as well as when we bring in the next person, we want to get your insights to the type of leader that is going to follow in Tom's footsteps to now take us to that next level, based upon, because things change. And it doesn't mean that Tom's not good enough. It's just that sometimes the level of skill that Tom could provide up to that point was sufficient, but now going forward wasn't the right fit for that managerial role. And so again, it's all in the communication and how you spin it on an offense level, not only to Tom, but also the rest of the team. So this way the team is not left in the dark going, why did they let Tom go? What happened? I thought everything was fine. And now they're left guessing what's happening. And now they're gonna be reacting, and you're gonna be reacting, because now you got to find, will these people now stay and now align with the new person that we plan to bring in? So these are things that are important that are communicated up front, not on the back end.
I think it's vital, because this was a long time ago. I remember I was in one job and they fired the GM with no heads up, basically. And I was a nobody. We were just like working there. But all of a sudden one day the GM is fired. It's a new guy. And we're like, what happened? And no one wanted to say anything. And then that created fear among the team. And you can start to see within the next 3 to 6 months, resumes were submitted to other places and people were leaving. And the main reason was they felt unsecure. They're like, if you could fire that guy overnight and didn't let us know what happened or how things went down or the main reason why, that communication, then you can just fire me at any point. And that created this instability. And then you started to see people kind of leaving, not because they hated their job, not because there was something wrong, but they started to feel like something is wrong and that nothing was communicated properly. Do you feel that people, like leaders, feel they need to hide things as opposed to explain to the team their decisions for that?
Yeah, they again, a lot of times there's a lot of reasons. There could be reasons where that the company doesn't want, might feel like, hey, if we're letting this person go, is there a bigger problem going on here than we thought of? And they don't want to create that perspective with the team, fearing that now more people will leave. But nonetheless, by not doing that, they ends up making the situation even worse, because they're going to feel like, I don't trust our upper management. We're just finding about this after the fact that Tom was let go. So a lot of times it's how it's communicated. It doesn't mean Tom isn't productive. He isn't talented. It's just that he did all these great things for us up to this point. The industry has changed. Our audience has changed. And this requires a whole new skill set that's in terms of leadership that's going to be required. So that means sometimes certain people that are talented or did great things, it's time to go. And it's okay. It's all part of the process. We've all been there. But if we're not communicating to that doesn't build that rapport and trust with your team. And now you're going to be more reacting on the back end now that you're trying to rescue those people that might now be leaving because, hey, they let Tom go. How do I know they're going to let me go? And they're not going to tell me or give me any indication, type of thing. So these are the things that I always find I call it transparent leadership, where it's transparent, it's authentic. These are what create a psychologically safe workplace, not in a way that makes you dependent on each other, but yet helps people to come out of their comfort zone, to make a mistake, learn from it, not be judged, not feel like they're incompetent. So by communicating openly from the top down, bottom up, side to side, is where I find where you build more trust, more respect. And when these things happen, people are able to adapt and understand and move forward.
I think the transparency part is the one that a lot of time you hear, especially like in the corporate, a lot of corporate language. You have no idea what happened there. Just some sort of a word salad of trying to kind of make sense of it all, because like you said, sometimes it's more than one main reason why something didn't work out. Now, if we're looking at finding the right people and finding the right prospect and going through the right approach, we're looking for skill base and personalities. Let's say someone is thinking about using recruitments or headhunters. How do you have a good relationship in that situation so that every party is happy and satisfied with the outcome?
I agree. Well, the same thing. So it doesn't matter if you're doing everything internally or you're going to be dealing with a third party recruiter. The communication has got to be specific, clear, and concise. You've got to understand your recruiter. Are you working with the right recruitment? Do we have similar values? Are we communicating? Is that recruiter that we're working with, is it the right personality or the right type of recruiter that's going to align with what's important to us, and to now know that, I really truly understand what we're looking for in terms of the next candidate that's going to fill this role. So it's no different than what you're doing internally. It's just now that this person becomes an extension of your organization, except they're a third-party recruiter. So again, it's that strategy's got to start within, and then it's got to be communicated. So there is very little to no room for assumption and speculation in the communication that the recruiter is just going to bring in what they think is the best fit. It's based upon what you actually require, not just on the experience, not just on the talent itself and what's on the resume. It's showing that these skills can be substantiated to exactly what we're looking for, that this person's personality traits are the best out of all the candidates, in alignment to the rest of our team to get most out of the people that they would be working for. So again, you're never going to bat 1,000, but if we can now increase that percentage, more likely we're going to hit on the right candidates. We're going to get more longevity out of that person in terms of their tenure and retention with that. And as you build more retention, you build more cohesion with that keeps people around longer. and you don't have that turnstile of people coming in and out on both sides.
Right. And when we're looking at, hiring for higher levels or using recruiters, what is your approach when it comes to building organizations in terms of at what point do you hire a manager? At what point do you hire a director? Like what needs to happen in order to have the right person, as opposed to you just took someone that is great and you just give them a glorified title and they're like a director of one person? How do you approach that the right way?
Great. I am, first of all, not a person that is hung up on titles. I know that's a corporate thing. I'm based upon results and again, people. You're only as good as your people and systems involved. So it's got to be a factor of both people and the tasks itself. So again, it comes down to what skills are missing in us where we are here to where we want to go here. What is missing? So that way, that okay, do we have to create a position to fulfill those skills that are missing? Can it be something that can be done by this type of pay grade or title, or where it might require more, where we got to have someone at a higher pay grade to do that? So again, the planning has to go into it first before we just say, hey, we need another director, we need another account manager, we need another this or that. It's not about the title, it's about the skill. Whatever can be better with the skills that are missing to make that happen. That's where the role can be designed to fulfill. And whatever you want to call it, you can call it, based upon what level that's going to be required to do that. If it's a director, if it's a VP, if it's a C-suite, if it's just a tactical level, whatever that is, or a specialty type thing.
Got it. All right. Chris, if someone is listening to this whole thing and they're like, wow, this is fantastic and very interesting, how do people get a hold of you to work with you?
Well, the best place, I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I wish I could still connect on LinkedIn, but I'm over 30,000 connections. So a lot of times they don't allow you to connect anymore. So you got to follow. I don't like that. But follow me on LinkedIn. I'll follow you back. You can always connect with me from my websites at ChristopherSalem.com. That's more of my EQ and communication specialty site for what I do as a keynote and subject matter expert. And then I have my business website at sustainablesuccess.net. And then if you just want to reach out by email, Chris@ChristopherSalem.com is fine. Either way, love to connect and get to know you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the time, Chris. This was fantastic. I learned a lot of stuff, and I hope people take these advices and start building successful teams for the future. And I wish you all the best.